Hello, and welcome to the Kemetic How-To Guide for Egyptian Pagan and Kemetic practitioners. I'm your host, Sharon. Today I want to tell you a little bit about what's called the voice offering, or sometimes in books you'll see it listed as the offering formula. But this is a traditional prayer that comes from ancient Egyptian sources, and they have instances of it going from the early Old Kingdom all the way up through the Greco-Roman period. So this was a very common traditional prayer that was said for the deceased. And you might have encountered it elsewhere online under a different name, and I'll tell you that one in just a minute. And incidentally, I do tell you about it in my own book, Following the Sun, Practical Guide to Egyptian Religion, available on Lulu. But see here, I can actually read it so that when you hopefully get the book and you're looking at it, you don't go, how's this supposed to sound? So it's more fun when you can hear it as well as see it in print. And another good book, this was my source, and it can tell you even more than I was. This tells you how to read the hieroglyphics for it. How to Read Hieroglyphics, Egyptian Hieroglyphics by Mark Collier and Bill Manley. And this is a wonderful book, and chances are you might be able to find, if you dig around, in a local library, or someone on the forum mentioned interlibrary loan. If you find out that there's another library that has it, you can get your library to borrow it for you so you can read it. And this book is great. If you get real good with this book, you can go into a museum and you can start reading the things that are in the artifacts in the museum. That's a lot of fun. So, what's the deal with the voice offering? Well, this is something that was said as a prayer to the Kas of people who had died. Everyone has a Ka and a Ba, and a few other components of their person. The Ka is their life force. That comes from the Creator, and that's what makes you alive. Your Ba is your spirit, your personality. It's what makes you different from, a life force that would be somebody else. And sometimes with the gods, if something was a manifestation of a god, an act or an event that was, thought to be, an expression of the gods, that was called the bow of that particular deity. But the Ka is what had to be nourished, after you died. That's what the offerings were for. And if you couldn't provide physical offerings of bread, food, water, and so on, you would give a voice offering. And that was just to say this particular prayer. You'll also hear it sometimes referred to as the Hotep Ri Nisut prayer, and that means Hotep Ri Nisut is a boon or offering which the king gives. And the idea behind that is the king is acting as an intermediary and is offering to Osiris on behalf of someone who has died. You'll most often find it in that form on coffins and monuments that were dedicated to courtiers and servants of the king, people who worked in his administration. And these were commissioned probably from the royal workshop. And the idea is that the king would act as, the person's intermediary before the gods. They didn't always stick with this, especially in periods like the intermediate periods where you had either no one was in control or you had more than one person claiming to be pharaoh. That did happen quite a few times. And, so if people wanted to make offerings, well, we'll just do it ourselves. And so there are a lot of variations on it. And sometimes people would invoke previous pharaohs who, still had a reputation, who were looked upon as being great. Amenhotep III, Thutmose III, who came a little before him, Ramesses the Great. Those were, very popular pharaohs and were looked upon very well long after they were gone. Nowadays, if you wanted to invoke a pharaoh, Tutankhamun would be, an obvious choice. So let's start with the basic. How do you say the offering formula? I'll go through it bit by bit. Keru. Actually, it's that keru sound. that literally means what comes forth is the voice. Here keru, ta, that's bread. Heneket, beer. Cow, that's beef. Updu, fowl, chicken nowadays. And you could add other things to that as well. Sunucher, that's incense. Merhat is perfumed oil. The next part is fairly important. Kut nevet nefrat wabet. That's all good and pure things. Onchet nacharim, on which a god lives. And Kain is to the Kav. Osir, that means they've departed, they've become one with Osiris. And then you name who it is that you're honoring. Then, after you say their name, you say Ma'acheru, which means true of voice. And then you can say Hernecha'a, that means before the great God. Or you can say Rionk Mira, given life like Ra. So altogether it goes Pere Cheru Ta Heneket Kau Afdu Kut Nebet Nefrat Wabet Ankhet Necherim and Kain Osir, give their name, Ma Cheru Hernecha'a. And put all together in English, if you wanted to just do it the simple way, it's a voice offering of bread, beer, beef, and fowl, all good and pure things on which a god lives, to the Ka of the departed, true voice before the great God. Now, the Hotep Rini Sut version, that's here in this book, and it's a little bit different. And it goes, Hotep Rini Sut, an offering which the king gives, Osu, and he's giving it to Osiris, not directly to the person who's receiving the offering. And a lot of times they would give titles of Osiris, such as Nebjadu, Neb-Abju, Lord of Busiris, Lord of Abydos, Netura'ah, that means, great God, Rief, so that he will give, and then you pick up with the rest, Perek, Heru, Ta, Heneket, and so on. So what that means is that the king is giving an offering to Osiris so that Osiris will give the voice offering for the deceased. So you can kind of see where some people said, well, I'm just going to skip the middleman and go straight to, I'm just going to give the voice offering. It really depended on the context. Now, you can use the voice offering if you're honoring your Aku, if you're performing an Osirian rite, such as the Osiris Mysteries, or the Wag Feast. That's another one that comes in early August, and it's sort of like the Jubilee of Osiris. Another place that I'll use it is in the Sinut observance. Now, when I say Sinut, I'm not talking about the offering ritual that's used in another tradition. Actually, Sinut can also refer to a lunar observance that was held 6 days after the new moon. And they had this whole complex lunar calendar, and that's actually something I'm working on. That's going to be in my next book. But the start of the month happened at the new moon. And then 6 days later, you had the Sinut. And that honored not just the lunar Eye of Horus restoring the fullness, but also offering to Osiris, because the Eye of Horus became one of the first offerings to be made to Osiris. So that's something, hopefully, that you'll be able to find useful for your own practice and add something to it, be it Egyptian pagan, Kemetic, Tamarin Wiccan, so on. So, for the Kemetic How-To Guide, this is Sharon wishing you Senebti, and thanks for watching.